Before we get started with this restoration, I just want to take a minute to thank you all for your support. We're up over 1,000 subscribers on our little corner of the internet, and I think that's just wonderful. I'll continue to work hard to provide quality content, and hopefully our community will continue to grow. Thanks again for your support. It means a ton to me. Let's get on to our next restoration. Hey, welcome back to our shop just outside Kennesaw here in North Georgia. Well, today's project is this mid-century modern triple dresser. The backstory on this is I picked it up a couple of days ago at a local thrift store for $50. It has a mirror that goes with it, and the back of the mirror had pulled away and the mirror had shifted and it was outside of its little rabbited location, so you couldn't get the mirror back together. So the first thing I did when I got it home was to take the back of the mirror off and get that glass back where it belongs, and then I reinstalled the back, and then that mirror now is tucked away in the house. Now, as far as dating this goes, the piece is unmarked. It appears to be from the 60s, but I looked at it, I can't find any dating. I'll give you a little bit of a tip on dating furniture. Very often, the back sides of the mirror glass has been marked with a date. This even applies to antique furniture as well. So when I had the back of that mirror off, I checked it, and sure enough, it's dated 1965. And I'm going to show you a picture of that stamp right now. And the other thing that stamp tells us is that this is a piece of Basset furniture. Now it's in pretty good shape. It's not the highest quality piece I've ever seen. It has a laminate top. That laminate top has some scratches in it. And a big part of this video is going to be showing you how I handle laminate tops when I'm doing a restoration on a piece of furniture. The other thing that's kind of interesting is these inserts on both of the top drawers are plastic. So I imagine this was a lower end piece of Basset furniture from 1965. But we'll be able to get this cleaned up. I don't know if you can tell, but there's white lines in here. It looks like someone took some chalk and played around with it. Maybe some kid did that. So what we're going to do with this piece is we're going to get the drawers out, get the hardware off. We're going to clean it, and then we will work on the laminate top. And that'll be the focus really of this video, because I've had a lot of questions on doing laminate tops. And then we will restore the finish on this. We will just light sand it, I'll glaze it, and then we'll just spray a coat of lacquer over it, and this will be ready to go. So our first step is to pull these drawers out of here, strip off the hardware, mix up some water, TSP, and crud cutter, and get this little girl wiped down. So stick with us, we'll get to work. Whenever I pull a drawer out, I mark it. Top secret code, TR, top right. That way when you go to put the drawers back together, you're not struggling trying to remember where they went. You can look at the construction. It's constructed with plywood, dovetail joinery. Looks to be a solid piece of probably poplar in the front, and the drawer case is made out of plywood with solid wood runners. So let me get these drawers out and we'll keep going. This is the plastic insert I was talking about on the top drawers, and I just noticed it's held in with 4 screws. So what the heck? Let's take these screws out and see what's behind here. It says Ronthor, R-O-N-T-H-O-R, 80-878-2, and it's just a molded decorative piece. Look at that. I took this inside and and scrubbed it, and that white stuff was not chalk, it was some kind of an oil-based marker. I had to use crud cutter to get it off, and it did fade the color a little bit. This bottom one, the one that had the white on it, by the time I got done scrubbing it, had excuse me, flattened out a little bit, lost a little bit of its color. So I tested to see if this plastic would be okay with lacquer on it by spraying a little lacquer on it, and it didn't react. So what I did is I toned it with some Perfect Brown toner. And basically all I did was just lightly mist some toner all around the piece. More on this one, less on this one. So now they match again. So as soon as these set up, we can shoot a final coat of lacquer on them and then just leave them aside. As far as the drawers go, we've got the hardware all stripped off of them. Hardware stored in a parts tray. Here's the cabinet. It appears to be in really, really good shape. So the next part of this is pretty boring. I'm going to mix up some water, Dawn Ditch detergent, some TSP, trisodium phosphate, and give this old girl a good bath. And I'll bring you back when she's done. Here's our drawers. They're all cleaned up. Bring you over here. Here's the cabinet, the sides, the top, and the inside face frame is all cleaned up. The legs are going to need some work, as you can see, but I'm getting too old to crawl around on my hands and knees, so I'm going to flip this up on the hydraulic table, jack it up, and get those legs cleaned up. And we got the dresser on the hydraulic table where I can work on it a little bit more comfortably. Let's take a look at those legs. And you can see here that the finish is completely off the legs, the leg tips anyways. This piece is in really, really good shape. Well, the people that owned it took very good care of it, obviously. And piece of carpeting, I guess. I get that off. But yeah, we're going to clean these legs, and I think probably while I've got this on the table, I'm going to do some color touch-ups on these legs and give them a little shot of lacquer. That way I don't have to flip it back over when it comes time to finish it. On the bottom of each leg is a nail. At one time they probably held on like casters or those nylon cups that go on the bottom of these legs. If we leave this like this, if whoever buys this puts it on a wood floor, it's going to tear the bejesus out of the floor. So what I'm going to do is just take a nail set. I'm going to set these inside this leg, and then I'm going to put some felt discs on these legs when I'm done cleaning and finishing them. That'll protect the floors for the next owner. And for the color touch-ups on the legs, I'm going to take a little bit of Perfect Brown pigment and just apply it with my finger over the real light spots. You all seen me do this before. This is just pigmented colors. And then just some aerosol lacquer. And that takes care of it. So I'll go through and touch these legs up. And I'll bring you back. And it only took about 5 minutes to get those legs back in shape. And they're at the point now where we don't have to worry about them when we redo the rest of this cabinet. So we can flip it back up on its legs. Okay, we've got this all wiped, all washed down, and we're ready to start to spend some time on this laminate top. Now listen, before we even get started, laminate tops are plastic, or some type of plastic, or some type of resin. I'm sure they used a million different combinations over the years. They're still using different things. I cannot promise you that this system that I'm going to show you that I use is going to work for you. Heck, I really can't even promise it's going to work on this. But it has worked for me in the past, and I find it the best solution. Your mileage may vary. You do what you think is right. Get on the internet and research it. You'll see pros and cons to everything. Now, before I even started, I took a little can of lacquer and I sprayed one of the corners of this cabinet just to see if it was going to react. It did not. So I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to tell you how I handle this laminate. The first thing I do is take a look at it and look for any deep scratches. Now, minor scratches and minor scrapes and buffs in here aren't that big a deal to worry about. The deeper scratches, the ones where you can catch your fingernails in them, you might want to fill those before you sand this piece. And I think I've got one here, and I'll show you how I fill it. Once that's done, I'm going to wet sand this top. I'll use 400 grit sandpaper, water and soap as a lubricant, and do a light sanding of this top to take off the top layer of oxidation, to get off little tiny scratches that aren't very deep in here, and also to rough the finish up for what's to come. Once it's been sanded, then you have two different options. The first option would be to buff this, just like you were buffing up a gloss finish on a piece of furniture. I've had mixed results with that. Sometimes you still get swirl marks that you can see. I think the reason is this laminate may be a little bit softer than a hardened lacquer or polyurethane finish, and it may not buff up quite as well. I've had good success with it, but sometimes I have some swirl marks, and I suppose if I spent a little bit more time with swirl mark remover, maybe that would come out. The other way I've done it, and the way I'm going to do it on this, is that after it's sanded, filled, deep scratches filled, wet sanded, cleaned off with naphtha, I'm going to shoot a coat of lacquer on this. And I'll start off with a mist coat, and then we'll build some finish. I've done some of these that have come out spectacularly with the lacquer on it. Obviously the question is are you going to have a reaction, or are you going to have adhering issues? And that's for up to you to decide. If you spray lacquer on and you have a mess, you're going to have to take it back off. So use your judgment, test a corner before you do it, and give it a whirl. I've had a ton of questions on how do you handle laminate tops when you're not going to paint them, and in this case I'm not going to paint it, I'm going to top coat it, and I'm going to show you how I do it, and we're going to start on that right now. I have this piece off the wheels so I can push and sand on it without it rolling all over the shop. But if I take you in raking light, hopefully you can see some of the scratches. This one right here is deep enough to catch my fingernail in. We're going to fill this. If you look up here, you can see another scratch, but it's really not quite as deep as the other one, and I think that if we sand that, we're going to be okay. What makes these things white is when the finish breaks, it catches the light, and I guess it's called refracting, right? And that's where this white comes from. So when you fill this with a liquid, like for example, if I was to take some alcohol or whatever, put on, it goes away. Now it goes away not because I fixed it, only because that's damp and it's no longer refracting the light. And you can see as it dries, that white line is coming back. And if you look along the tape or along here, you can see there's other little scratches and marks from use. It's in really pretty good shape. I think a lot of this light stuff is going to wet sand out, and this piece here we're going to fill, and we're going to do that next. Okay, I think you can see this is the scratch that we're going to be filling right here, and what I've got are Mohawk's hard fill sticks, and I believe that these colors are the best to use. What you want to do is first match to the lightest color and then start matching to your darker colors. I'm going to pick you up now, try to bring you in on this. This is really difficult to film. You can see at this end it's against the lighter field. I think that color pretty well matches this. Then it crosses this grain, this darker grain. So we'll try to use a little bit right there. And then we have a little bit of a lighter brown ready to go. You don't have to be exact with this, but if I was to take the light brown and run it across here, it's going to show. And if I was to take the dark brown and run it across here, it's going to show. So I'm going to do my best to try to match the colors here a little bit. It won't be exact, and it's not going to be perfect. And if you look for it, you're going to see it. But when it's top coated and people don't know it's there, it's going to be relatively invisible. So let me get you set back up. Now this little heat gun or heat pen is fueled by a couple of AAA batteries, if you can believe it. And what we're going to do is just try to get that wax right in there. And as you remember, this product wants to be pushed down with a heat sink, which in this case is just a piece of steel. Okay, now let's go on with a darker color. Of course, these colors can be mixed and matched and played around with as you need. Let's just see what we can do here. And we'll go to our other color. Just get a little bit on the tip. We'll give it just a minute or two to harden up. The system comes with this little plastic scraper, and what it does is it's supposed to take any excess wax off that's not below the surface. And there we go. And I think, looking at it from above, and it's hard to see, I'm going to try to get you out of the shade. This doesn't look good, this lighter color to me. So I'm going to put a little bit of darker color on that and swirl them together and see how that works out. Yeah, I like that a whole lot better. Okay. Trying to block this glare from you, but you can see that's gone. So that's how you use this product. I think that's the last of the scratches I really need to worry about, so I'm going to go move on to wet sanding. Okay, you've seen me in the past with 400 wet dry sandpaper and a sanding block. And you just wrap your sandpaper on your sanding block, you spray down some soapy water as a lubricant, and then with the grain, if there is grain on a laminate, you lightly sand. And there you go. Except, well, not except, I have a new toy. It's an air sander, and I've not used it before, and I'm going to use it now, and I'm going to smile. So stand by and either watch me sand through this laminate or make short work of this. So let me hook this up and we'll give it a whirl. I am told by people in the know that these things are absolute air hogs, so we'll see if my new compressor can keep up. Let's see how we do. Well, the first bit of good news is my compressor kept up just fine, never got below 125 psi. And the second bit of good news is it seems to be working well. So I'm going to work on getting this sanded down the best I think I need to, and then we should be ready to, well, we've got some repairs to do on the drawers, but then we can get ready to shoot some top coat. Okay, we've been about 5 minutes is all with that new sander, and you can see we've got things pretty well flattened out. I think you can probably see, you still see these scratches, but I'm not worried about them any longer because I think they're going to disappear into the lacquer coat. It looks like we've sanded off part of the shiny stuff that was on here, and I'm sorry, I just don't know what it is. We're down more to the substrate of the laminate, and you know, like this little scratch here, I think that'll be fine under the lacquer. And I don't even know where that repair is that we did. So I think this is good. I think I'm going to leave it right the way it is. I'm not looking for perfection with this. I want this piece to still look old, but I want this top to look good, and it didn't look good before we started working on it. And you can see this is a really good spot right here. I hope you can pick up on this, but you can see that we can see this scratch here, and where we sanded that shiny part off, which is here, the scratch completely disappears. So we may want to work a little bit more, but truly I think we're fine. And once we put the lacquer coat on it, we're going to be fine. But I may just hit this with a little bit more sanding. For those of you interested, this is the sander I bought. It's an Ingersoll Rand 312A. I bought it on Amazon. I think it was around $100, and this is the first time I've used it on a project, and I love it. Very, very nice sander. And my Quincy compressor, which, as you know, is a 60-gallon two-stage, puts out 15.7 CFM at 90 psi. No problem keeping up with this. No problem whatsoever. Okay, I'm going to finish the sanding on this, and then I'll bring you back. Let's turn our attention to the drawers. And as always in these old pieces, we've always got loose dovetails. You can see these are coming up. And there's two ways of repairing these. You can heat up by all the joints, take the drawers apart. But in this case, you can see how tight the back joints are, and they're plywood. So all I'm going to do here is just open these up the best I can, work some glue in there, pop them back down, throw a clamp on them, and let the glue set up. You've seen me do this 1,000 times. There's no reason for you to watch it. So I will do all this work off camera where I get these all these loose joints taken care of, and then we will turn our attention to top coating the cabinet. And as I've explained before, this schedule that I use is not a refinishing, it's a refreshing. The idea is just to make the piece look nice again, take care of any problems that would allow the piece to deteriorate, missing finish, etc. I don't sell it as a refinished piece of furniture, it merely is refreshed. And I have had no troubles whatsoever using this schedule, and I've had great success with it. And I just put it lightly on with a foam brush. And then I'll come back and even it out. Now, Mohawk glaze wants between 2 and 6 hours to dry. 2 hours is the minimum and 6 is the maximum. After 6, it apparently maybe powders up and gets some adhesion problems. Okay, once I've got the glaze on, I take a dry chip brush and I brush it out with the grain, wiping the excess off on a rag. And you want to always go with the grain here. Make sure you don't have any globs of glaze on your piece. And there you go. I think you can see how much nicer that looks already. Hey, this is a good drawer face to show you that how that glazing technique works. You can see just how scratched and faded this drawer face is. It's been wet sanded and it's dry. Let's glaze it and see how it comes out. Now what's happening now is the glaze is working its way into those scratches and into the finish flaws and coloring them so they're not refracting light, and they also will blend in now with the rest of the field. And any place where the color was lighter, of course, has now been colored. So using our dry brush, get off any excess. Make sure you get it all. It's easy to miss a spot. Now work a little bit in on the top edge. You don't want to leave this glaze so it's not going with the grain. It'll look bad. But look at that. There you go. That's why I do this step. Heck, what the heck. That gets a thumbs up. Well, we've been about 2.5 hours and we've got this piece cleaned. We took care of any little repairs. It's been wet sanded. It's been glazed, color touch-upped, and it's about ready for its top coating. And then here's the rest of the drawers over here. So we're going to give this about 2 hours or so to set up, and we'll be back and we will start to spray on our lacquer coats and work towards finishing this old girl up. When I was cleaning the dresser out, I found this receipt in the dust panel. It's from Snap-on Tools Corporation. It's an employee purchase request from a gentleman called Kurt Erlandson from Kenosha, Wisconsin. He worked in the plating department. This is back in 1991. And he made a request for an employee discount on a red-handled tool, which is a 30% discount, and that's what he paid for it. And this was approved by the plant personnel manager. I wonder if Mr. Erlandson and his wife were the first owners of this chest that we're working on, this dresser that we're working on. And I wonder where he is now, because his dresser wound up at a little thrift shop in rural Georgia. Well, anyways, Mr. Erlandson and Mrs. Erlandson, if this is yours, I'm doing my best to bring it back to its original beauty. You did a great job with it. It's in great shape, and I wish you all the best. Okay, you can see how nicely that top has come out. We've got the glare going on here, but that top looks beautiful. The case looks beautiful. And come over here to these drawers. Look at that. Okay, we'll let this coat dry. See if we need to shoot another one on. After a second coat of lacquer, looking really good. Looks really good.
No reactions, no adhesion issues on the top. Between coats, I rubbed this down with some steel wool. Then I shot a second coat over top of that. So we'll let this dry and we'll see how we do, but we're just about there. That's looking great. Well, after 2 coats of lacquer and reinstalling the hardware, here she is, and I think she came out great. Let's take a look at that laminate top. It looks cloudy, but that's only because the lights, the glare from the lights, there's absolutely nothing affecting this top. It looks nearly brand new. And I'm going to kind of pose a question to you all. These things here look ridiculous on this, and I was trying to wonder, I'm wondering what they were for, and I vaguely remember there was a period of time where things like furniture like this was sold with these types of inserts, and you could switch them out to kind of give you a different look. Like they would have like a Spanish look or a mid-century modern look or whatever. If any of you know that for sure, comment below, because I think this dresser is absolutely beautiful, except for these things, which I think are absolutely butt ugly. But hey, I didn't buy it, I didn't build it, and like they say over on the South Main Auto Channel, I didn't break it, so it is what it is. Well, listen, from our shop just outside Kennesaw here in North Georgia, best regards, thanks for watching, take good care. Remember, it's just wood, and in this case, plastic, color, and some shiny stuff. I hope you learned something. Glad I finally got a project to do one of these laminate tops, because I know a lot of you have been asking me about them.